Chapter 1. George Wickham lounged in a chair in the little parlour in the Darcy's rented house in Ramsgate, about to go mad with boredom. Georgiana sat at the pianoforte, brow wrinkled in concentration, as she played the long, difficult piece he'd selected, the sort of lofty twaddle enjoyed by the accomplished set. It would be endearing how hard she worked to perform it properly for him, if he didn't have to endure listening to it. The pianoforte had been moved and reoriented at Wickham's insistence, ostensibly so that morning light would fall on the pages for Georgiana to better read them. This left it woefully out of tune, which mattered not at all. The difference between discordant sounds and boring music meant little. The tuning of a pianoforte was, in Wickham's mind, an unnecessary expense, but Mrs. Young had it tuned anyway, citing Georgiana's worry that her performance wouldn't please him. The only pleasing thing about her performance was that he didn't need to do anything except appear to be enjoying her music. She reached a particularly tricky section and redoubled her efforts, haunching over the keys in a way that emphasized her gangly form. Heaven help him, once they were married he'd ensure she never played for him again, not wishing to see or hear her do so. In fact, he wouldn't even permit an instrument in their home. A pianoforte was an absurd waste of funds, better used for actual entertainment. While Georgiana concentrated, her governess, Mrs. Young, rose. She gave Wickham a nod and slipped from the room, her ability to do so unobserved by her ward, the real reason for his insistence on moving the instrument. Stealthy as a cat, she disappeared down the hall to pry in Georgiana's room. Mrs. Young returned to the parlour a short time later, entering as quietly as she'd left. She retook her place and picked up her knitting, appearing for all the world as if she hadn't left. Once she'd ordered herself, she turned to him, a look he met with raised eyebrows. With a slight smile, Mrs. Young gave a tiny shake of her head. Good. That meant Georgiana hadn't mentioned his presence in Ramsgate to her brother. Nor had she since Wickham's arrival some weeks ago. Her omission indicated that she had some inkling that he and Darcy had fallen out. Her tacit compliance in keeping his presence a secret suggested his suit was working. Soon she would be ready to elope with him. Wickham settled back, pleased with the progress of his plan and with his fellow conspirator. Mrs. Young was proving worth every penny of the £100 advance he'd given her to help him implement his plan. And when she never saw the 900 he'd promised after that plan came to fruition, well, that was on her for believing him. He suppressed a chuckle at the recollection of how she'd had him pen and sign the offer, as if a scrap of paper could